Hi everyone, I am introducing a brand new topic that we haven't had a chance to talk about at all, but is included in the EE 5 through 9 packet that you have to do. Solving equations and inequalities. So when you solve equations, the idea is that you need to use an inverse operation. Inverse means opposite. So inverse operations are opposite operations that undo or cancel each other out. So the inverse of addition is subtraction, because if you're adding, the opposite of that would be subtracting. And so the inverse of subtraction would be addition. The inverse of multiplication then is division, and the inverse of division is multiplication. So what does inverse operations have to do with solving equations? So let's look at this first equation. X plus 6 equals 10. So we can look at this and figure out what x is. X needs to be whatever x needs to be added to 6 would equal 10. And we know that answer would be 4. But how do we do that algebraically? So let me show you. The idea is you want to get the variable by itself on one side of the equation. So x plus 6, x is attached to the 6 by this addition sign. So we are going to undo addition with its inverse operation, which is subtraction. So we're going to take our addition and we're going to subtract out the 6. But whatever we do to one side, we also have to do to the other side. So here's what I also need to subtract 6 on this side. So here's what happens. I take my x down. Plus 6 and minus 6 cancel each other out. I bring my equals down, and then I solve. 10 minus 6 equals 4. So the answer to this equation is x equals 4. Let's do this again. Over here, 4 and x next to each other means I am multiplying. So the inverse operation of multiplying is dividing. So I need to divide the number that's attached to the variable. I'm dividing by 4. Since I'm doing that on this side, I need to do the same thing on the other side and divide by 4. So this 4 and this 4 cancel. I bring down the x, bring down the equal sign, and then 20 divided by 4 equals 5. Now, does that make sense? What times 4 equals 20? 5 times 4 equals 20. Okay, let's do some more examples. Looking at this problem number 1, q plus 100 equals 161. On this left side of the equal sign, the q, which is my variable, is attached to the 100 by addition. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. And I need to subtract out 100. Since I subtracted 100 on this side, I also need to subtract 100 on the other side. And then I'm going to draw a line. And now I just need to carry down. Bring down my q. The plus 100 and minus 100 cancel. Bring down my equal sign. And then subtract 161 minus 100 equals 61. Let's look at number 2. X minus 51 equals 19. The x and the 51 are attached by subtraction. The inverse of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 51 because my whole goal is to get this x by itself. And I also need to add 51 on the other side of the equal sign. So let's figure out my answer. Bring down my x. Then minus 51 and plus 51 cancel because they're opposites. Bring down the equal sign. And then 51 plus 19 equals 70. So x equals 70. Okay, let's look at this next one. 68 equals x minus 95. So now you'll notice that our equal sign, our answer is on this side and our problem is on this side. That doesn't change anything. We're still focusing on the side with the variable to figure out what we need to do. So let's look at what is attached to the variable. The 95 is attached to the variable by subtraction. So I need to do the opposite, which is add. The opposite of subtraction is addition. And I'm going to add 95 on this side, and I'm going to add 95 on this side. And then let's carry down. Let's starting from the left. 68 plus 95. 8 plus 5 is 13. Carry the 1. 9 plus 6 is 15 plus 1 is 16. So 163. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the x, and then the minus and the plus 95 cancel because they're opposite. So my answer is 163 equals x. Number 4, 45 is attached to the y by addition. So I need to subtract 45 on both sides. And I need to subtract 45 here. I'm going to change this. I'm going to subtract 45 here, and I'm going to subtract 45 here. Okay, so 45 plus 45 and minus 45 cancels. I'm going to bring down my y. I'm going to bring down my equal sign, and then I'm actually going to subtract. I'm going to 3 minus 5, can't do, borrow from the 3, make it a 2, and make this a 13. 13 minus 5 is 8, and 12 minus 4 is 8. So y equals 88. Okay, let's look at our next example. These are some multiplication and division examples. 25 is attached to the x by multiplication. So in order to undo it, I need to divide by 25 on both sides. So multiplying and dividing by 25 are opposite operations which cancel each other out. I'm going to bring down my x, bring down my equal sign. And then I'm going to divide 500 divided by 25 equals 20. Number 6, 120 times c equals 1,200. So since I'm multiplying 120 to the c, I need to divide by 120 on both sides. So multiplying and dividing by 120 are opposite operations, which means they cancel each other out. I'm going to bring down my c, I'm going to bring down my equal sign, and then I'm going to take 1,200 and divide it by 120, and I'm going to get 10. Eight times t equals 100. So since I'm multiplying 8 and t times each other, I need to divide by 8 on both sides. Multiplying by 8 and dividing by 8 are opposite operations which cancel each other out. I'm going to bring down the t, I'm going to bring down the equal sign, and then I'm going to do 100 divided by 8. And obviously if you don't have a calculator, you're going to get one now. Otherwise, you can actually just do a long division problem. This is going to be t equals 12.5. So what that means is 12.5 times 8 should equal 100. And you can double check that in your calculator as well. Let's look at number 8. 13 times r equals 97 and 5/10. So 13 times r, since we're multiplying by 13, we need to divide by 13, and we need to do that on both sides. So I'm going to take my multiplying and dividing by 13, opposite operations cancels, bring down my R, bring down my equal sign, and then in my calculator I'm going to put 97.5 divided by 13, and I'm going to get 7.5. So again, what that means is 13, since R is 7.5, times 7.5 is going to equal 97.5. And you can check that in your calculator. 7.5 and 13, if you multiply them together, you will get 97.5. Okay, so what should happen if you are instead have an inequality? The same rules apply. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to look at this as if this greater than sign is an equal sign. And 2 and F are multiplied by each other, so I need to divide by 2 and divide by 2. So over here, multiplying by 2 and dividing by 2 cancels each other out. I'm going to bring down the F. 12 divided by 2 equals 6. Instead of bringing down an equal sign, I'm going to bring down the greater than sign. And what are some things that would actually fit for F? So F could be anything greater than 6, like 7 or 8 or 9. We don't know. Okay, let's look at this next one. This is B divided by 3. So since we're dividing B by 3, I actually on both sides need to multiply by 3. Dividing by 3 and multiplying by 3 cancel each other out. So I'm going to bring down the B, and then 3 times 3 is 9. And I'm going to carry down this less than sign, and my answer is B has to be less than 9. So B could be anything from 8 to 7 to 6 and so on. Okay, let's look at this one. 55 is greater than or equal to 11a. So now, just like before, this kind of switched sides. The variable's over here. So this is the side I'm working off of to determine what I need to do to solve. So the 11 is attached to the a by multiplication. So I need to, divide by 11 on this side and divide by 11 on this side. So multiplying by 11 and dividing by 11 cancels each other out. I'm bringing down my a. 55 divided by 11 is 5. And then I just need to carry my sign down, greater than or equal to. 5 is greater than or equal to a. And so if 5 is greater than or equal to a, that means a is less than or equal to 5. So a can be anything from 5 to 4 to 3 to -2. It can keep going. All right, let's look at this one. We're taking half of g. 1/2 times g is less than or equal to 6. So what we're going to be doing is multiplying by 1/2. Oh, that's wrong. Ignore that. Instead of multiplying by 1/2, we're multiplying by 1/2. We need to divide by 1/2. Which means I need to take 6 and divide it by 1/2. So we know multiplying by 1/2 and dividing by 1/2 is going to give me g. I can do keep, change, flip here to figure out my answer. Keep 6, 6 over 1. Change the division to multiplication. Flip the 1 over 2 to 2 over 1 and multiply. 6 times 2 equals 12. 1 times 1 equals 1. So this actually equals 12. Bring down my sign. G is less than or equal to 12. So G could be anything less than 12 or equal to 12. So it could be 12, 11, 10, and so on. So what happens if instead of it just being a nice and simple equation, we have something that looks like this? it has both multiplication and addition, or division and subtraction. It has two different things, two different operations in it. So in order to solve this, we need to follow two steps. The first step is to undo any addition or subtraction. So I'm going to look at this problem and I'm going to see what is being added or subtracted. And I can see that 7 is being added. So I need to undo the addition by subtracting. So I'm going to subtract 7 here and I'm going to subtract 7 here. And then we're going to solve. Now in this case, I don't just have an x to bring down, I have a 3x to bring down. Adding 7 and subtracting 7 cancel each other out. I'm going to bring down my equal sign, and then I'm going to subtract 34 minus 7, and I'm going to get 27. Now my new problem is 3 times x equals 27. So how do I solve this? I notice that 3 and x are attached by multiplication, so I need to divide by 3. And I need to take 27 and divide by 3. And since 3 is canceled, one's multiplying and one's dividing, it's canceled. So I'm going to bring down the x. And 27 divided by 3 equals 9. So let's check to see if that works. And if we go back to the original problem, which is this right here, I would need to first multiply 3 times 9 because x is 9. So I need to multiply 3 times 9 and I would get 27 and then add 7 to 27 to get 34. So we know that this answer is correct. So let's do a couple of these to check or to solve. So this first one is x divided by 5 minus 10 equals 2. So the first thing I want to do is look for what is being added or subtracted to the side with the variable. The 10 is being subtracted, which means I need to add 10 on both sides. So let's walk through this. The x divided by 5 would stay the same. The minus 10 and plus 10 cancel each other out. Bring down my equal sign. And then 2 plus 10 equals 12. Now, in the next step, I notice that x is being divided by 5. So the only way to solve that is to multiply by 5, which means I would also multiply this side by 5. So 5 being divided and 5 being multiplied cancel each other out. Bring down the x. Bring down my equal sign. 12 times 5 equals 60. So let's see if that works in our check. So x is 60. So let's start here. 60 divided by 5 is 12, and then 12 minus 10 is 2. So this one gets, again, a nice big check. Okay, let's look at the next one. 17 plus 3y equals 38. In this case, it's a little tricky because you have to recognize it's not 3 being added. 3 is being multiplied to the y. So it's the 17 that's being added. So I need to work opposite of that. So I'm going to subtract 17 and subtract 17. So let's go through and cross out and carry down. Plus 17 minus 17 cancels. Bring down the 3y. Bring down the equal sign, and then 38 minus 17 equals 21. Now I notice that 3 is being multiplied by y, so to undo that, I want to divide by 3 on both sides. So, what is being canceled? 3 multiplied and divided is canceled. Bring down the y. 21 divided by 3 equals 7. So my answer is y equals 7. So let's see if that works. So in order of operations, I would need to take this 7, plug it in up here, and multiply first. 3 times 7 is 21, and 21 plus 17 is 38. So this gets a great big check. Okay, let's look at our next one. 5 times b plus 15 equals 30. What's being added or subtracted? Easy. 15 is being added, so I'm going to subtract 15 on both sides. Okay, let's carry down what we can. 5b we have not solved yet. 15 added and 15 subtracted gets to cancel. And then we're going to take down the equal sign and do 30 minus 15, which equals 15. Now I notice that 5 is multiplied by b. So in order to undo that, I need to divide since we're multiplying, and we're going to divide on both sides. And then let's take our cancellations. So multiplying by 5 and dividing by 5, opposite operations cancel. Bring down the b. Bring down the equal sign, and then 15 divided by 5 is 3. So let's see if this works. Take our 3, multiply it by 5, which gives me 15, and then 15 plus 15 equals 30. So this, again, is one big check. Okay, so for these ones, I want you to try them. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to try this first one, and then we'll talk through it. Did you pause? And good, you've worked on it, and I want you to come back to me now. So 7 times n plus 14 equals 21. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recognize that 14 is being added, so I'm going to subtract 14 here and subtract 14 here. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Let's go through our cancellations. Bring down the 7n. Plus 14 minus 14 cancels. Bring down the equal sign. And then 21 minus 14 equals 7. 7 is being multiplied by n, so since it's being multiplied, I need to divide by 7 on both sides. And let's walk through the cancellation. Multiplying by 7 and dividing by 7, opposite operations cancel. Bring down the n. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Let's check our answer. N equals 1. So if I multiply 7 times 1, which is what n is, I get 7 plus 14 equals 21. So, check. Okay, let's look at the next one. C divided by 4 plus 3. So the first thing I want to do is subtract out the 3 on both sides. And then I'm going to carry down the C divided by 4. The 3 plus and minus gets canceled. Equal sign, 5 minus 3 is 2. Since C is being divided by 4, I need to multiply both sides by 4. So what is being canceled? Dividing by 4 and multiplying by 4, which brings me down my C and my equal sign. And 4 times 2 is 8. So let's check our answer. If I take 8, put the 8 here and divide it by 4, I get 2. And then I add 3 to get 5. And so our answer is a check. And the last one. I notice that 4 is being subtracted. So it's Q divided by 2 minus 4 plus 18. So I'm going to, let's use the actual pen. I'm going to add 4 on both sides. Okay, let's do our cancellations. So, Q divided by 2 I'm going to bring down. Minus 4 and plus 4 cancels. Bring down the equal sign. 18 plus 4 is 22. Now I see that Q is being divided by 2, so I need to multiply by 2 on both sides. And then dividing by 2 and multiplying by 2 cancels. So I'm bringing down the Q, and then 22 divided by 2, or multiplied by 2, is 44. So let's see if this works. If I take 44 and plug it in here, 44 divided by 2 is 22, minus 4 gives me 18. So that is nice, one big check. How did you do?